Good to see you. I'm David Blankenhorn, and I started Braver Angels in 2016 because of something big and ugly and dangerous that was happening in the country and calls for our response as citizens. The word that's generally used is polarization. It means the country breaking apart into two mutually hostile groups that don't trust each other, that certainly don't like each other, and increasingly don't even know each other, don't even kind of have the same way of thinking about the world, the same sources of truth, the same, and it can have a very disorienting effect. I have a feeling that many of you might have felt this too. It's like the Willie Nelson song about this. He says, "Turn the sound down on the TV. I can't take it anymore. It's like I'm in some foreign country that I've never seen before." That's that feeling you get when the country's breaking apart in this way. And one of the worst things about it is that all the issues that we care about get sucked into this kind of undertow where you can't really talk about them on the merits anymore. I mean, whether it's climate or civil rights or the safety net, all the things that you all care most about and that we care about, they all get ground up into this paradigm of polarization so that the two teams, they're suited up and they want to fight and they want to cheer and they really hate each other. It's not like I disagree with on the issues, but you're a bad person. I don't want to associate with you. It's not just that I disagree with you. I don't want my children to know your children. It's that kind of contempt. So all the issues we care about are sucked into this. It really is like an undertow. So that's the issue that we began to try our best. In 2016, when in a little church basement in South Lebanon, Ohio, shortly after the 2016 election, 10 people who had just voted for Hillary Clinton met with 10 people who had just voted for Donald Trump to try to actually talk to one another, as opposed to at each other or about each other. And it was just an electric thing. I mean, it was just a powerful thing and made us feel a little better about the country. And we've had, since then, these past 5 years, we've had a lot of progress. We are now, by, I think, pretty much any measure, the largest and fastest growing group in the country, bringing together conservatives and progressives on equal terms to try to find each other again and work together for the good of the country. We don't try to change each other's minds. We don't try to all become centrists. But we do try to hear one another, and we do try to change our minds about each other. The possibility of civic friendship across very deep differences. And we've been able to do that. That's why we feel a kind of calling here, a kind of almost a spirit that makes you get a bounce in your step and makes a lot of volunteers all over the country do this work. But we're losing. Willie Nelson says in this same song, he says, we are seriously outnumbered. The institutions in our society, the incentive systems are all oriented to conflict, to the cultivation of conflict, whether it's in the media, what gets you clicks, whether it's in politics, what gets you through your primary. We're living in an era of kind of conflict entrepreneurs. There's a lot of money involved in this. There's a lot of status. There's a lot of, you know what I mean? And here we are. We are seriously outnumbered. So we're here today to ask for your help, your colleagueship, your friendship. We'd like to level the field a bit. We'd like to not be the underdogs. We'd like not to fail. We would like to not fail. Because, you know, if our country breaks up, I mean, really breaks up, maybe with some violence involved, maybe with some just irreparable damage, so that we no longer have this promising experiment in ordered liberty that our founders bequeathed us. If that comes to an end in 2022, 2024, it'll be because of this. This will be what will have caused it. So those are the stakes. And we come here with no victory cry, but with trying to live in hope and live in truth, and we ask for your colleagueship. And I want to turn it over now to my friend Barbara to say a bit more.
Thank you, David. So, apologies for not standing. I actually sprained my ankle a little ago, so I'm gonna stay seated. I'm from Minnesota, and I spent 20 years working as a U.S. diplomat, representing America around the world to other countries. And that work, I found, was getting increasingly difficult to do, as I felt that more and more we were tearing ourselves apart back at home. I'm a liberal, lifelong liberal. My husband's a conservative. And back when we first got married, I used to joke that it actually had more of an impact on my life that he didn't like onions or mushrooms than that we voted differently. But as the years went by and as the country has changed, our political differences felt more and more pressing, and those conversations were harder and harder to get through. By the time I got ready to retire, we had decided that we wanted to find some way to be some small part of mending our social fabric that had become so badly damaged. And maybe our experience in this politically mixed marriage would be helpful in that effort, but we weren't sure how to do it. It was my husband who actually found Braver Angels. And we were already in on the mission. That was what we were looking for. But as we got to know the organization more, we became deeply, deeply impressed with the methods. So both of us jumped in with both feet. My husband volunteers at the Minnesota level, and I volunteer at the national level. So what are those methods? One major thing is Braver Angels provides free workshops in communities around the country that teach the mindset and the skills to communicate effectively with people with whom they disagree. There's skills for bridging the divide, there's depolarizing within, there's families in politics, a whole range of workshops. We also have workshops that bring together conservatives, together with liberals and progressives, to talk about their values and their politics in an attempt to understand each other, to get past the stereotypes, and to see the humanity in each other. All these workshops were designed by a professor at the University of Minnesota who teaches family therapy. Our workshops are not therapy, but they're based on proven principles. Because if you think about a dysfunctional family where communication is completely broken down or become toxic, how do you get those people to come back together and talk to each other in a way that is safe and productive? And that's what our workshops do. We also have an incredibly robust debate program that functions at the national level, the local level, at campuses around the country, and even most recently with political candidates. The debate program, again, it's the structure, it's the careful design of how we do these debates that leads to the remarkable results that we get. We can bring together people that disagree even passionately about hot-button issues. We've done debates on guns, on abortion, on whether the election was stolen. We even did a debate at the University of Mississippi about whether they should take down Confederate statues. We don't avoid difficult topics. This program, all the different levels of the debate program, have reached over 20,000 people so far. We've worked on campuses ranging from community college in Oklahoma to an upcoming debate at Princeton. Most of these schools want to keep working with us over time because we provide a way to enhance, to teach the skills for civic engagement in the student body, which is incredibly valuable. All of these methods for our workshops or debates and our other programming have had multiple academic studies that show the effectiveness, the impact that we can have with this kind of programming. One particular study tested people before and after a workshop and showed a demonstrable reduction in the level of polarization. And they followed up with them 6 months later, and the effect still held. So with these incredible methods, there's two other things I want to highlight that I think set us apart from other organizations that work in this dialogue across difference space. One is our commitment to balance between red-leaning and blue-leaning views of the world. And that is something, most of the other organizations are overwhelmingly blue. But our organization has a commitment from the very beginning to balance red and blue leadership at every level, from the national all the way down to the most local group. The other thing I think that really sets us apart is we don't just bring people together for amazing conversations and send them on their way. We have a way of continuing engagement to keep people involved and doing the work to depolarize our country. We're in all 50 states. We have over 50,000 subscribers. We have over 11,000 dues-paying members. 2,000 plus of those are active volunteers who do things like moderate all these workshops, organize events, do outreach, design programs, and so many more things. We also have local chapters, which we call alliances. Right now, there's more than 80 alliances around the country, and that number continues to grow. The most recent thing that we've brought in is bringing these methods into the political sphere, where we engage with elected officials, their staffs, and their relationship with their constituents. We engage at congressional level, state legislatures, as well as municipal governments, even in school boards and city councils and the like. And there's a real hunger. What we're finding is there's a real hunger for this work. We can all think very easily of politicians that are actively fueling the fires of polarization. But most elected officials genuinely are trying to serve the communities that they represent. And they get caught up in all this toxicity. Braver Angels helps show a different path forward. So I'd like to turn it over to April Lawson-Cornfield.
I'm April Lawson-Cornfield, and I'm really happy to be in this room with you today. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces. I feel like this is basically just a room of friends. So when I graduated from Yale in 2009 with a degree in anthropology, I had no idea how relevant my study of tribalism was going to be. I learned that on November 9th, 2016, which, as many of you may remember, is the night that Donald Trump won the election for President of the United States. Now, I'm a conservative, and I have been for a long time, but I don't support President Trump. And the fact that a man with that kind of character could be elected to the highest office in the land told me that there is a cultural rift in this country that is deep, it is profound, and it will not heal on its own. I was shaken to my core that night, and I knew in my gut that I would spend the next years, decades, maybe my whole career trying to fix this problem, to heal this divide, because our country so desperately needs it. So you've heard our mission, you've heard how we do what we do. My job is to tell you what we need. And to explain that, I want to tell you a little bit about our theory of change. We think about it in layers: individuals, institutions, culture, and society. And so we know that we can change individuals, we can change hearts and minds. And we also are getting pretty good at changing individuals' institutions. on campuses, local political institutions, even some media organizations. But I want to be honest with you. That is not going to amount to much of anything, to what we need it to, unless this thing takes on a life of its own, becomes much bigger, and becomes more than the sum of its parts. And for that, we need a social movement. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about, is how do we build that social movement? And I'd like to start with assets. We have a lot going for us. So we have this incredible grassroots base. We have excellent talent. We have some key partnerships. We even have like a singer-songwriter council who sing and write songs about this stuff. We have a lot going for us. We're massively underfinanced, as nonprofits tend to be, but there's a lot on our side. But I have to be honest again. The arsenal of what is lined up against us is so much bigger. It is so much bigger. What that means is that, and David was telling you a little bit about this whole industry, right, of conflict entrepreneurs, people who literally make money, dividing us, caricaturing the other side, generating outrage, making us hate each other. Politics and media are the two worst offenders, but it is all over the place. And that industry is well financed, and worse, it's well incentivized. And so what that means is that every dollar we spend putting a volunteer in the field to run a workshop in a little community in Texas, for every dollar we spend, there's $1,000, maybe $10,000 going to that same community, trying to divide those people and make them hate each other. And that means that this is hard. It's really hard. And part of the problem, so what we need is a social movement, but part of why that's hard is that we're working with a population of American citizens who don't see it as part of their job to work on this problem. And the reason for that is that when we think about how do I want to make change, how do I want to make the world better, we focus on issues, right? We think LGBTQ rights, race, maybe gun rights, abortion, whatever it is. We focus on issues, but the thing that is so easy to miss is that there is an umbrella over all those issues. It's our democratic system, our democratic culture. And that thing has been there so long that we barely see it anymore. We assume that it will always be there. But that umbrella is being torn down. 60% of Americans now believe that we are headed towards violence. We've seen a lot lately. We've been hearing among our networks of people saying the time for talking is over. What's left when the time for talking is over? And what do you think is going to happen to these issues if that umbrella goes away? So we work on issues, and we do great work on issues, and that's great. But as probably you've noticed, since I'm sure that all of you care about a lot of the same issues I do, you can't even make progress on them because they get tangled in the gridlock of our political institutions and the fact that we don't even speak the same language in this country anymore. Different words mean different things in different parts of the country. And so then what people do is they say elections. I'm going to give money to that candidate. I'm going to give money to that party. I'm going to donate to that PAC, that cause. And they say, we've just got to win the next election. We've got to beat those guys. We've got to win. But I got to tell you, we've had some wins lately. And that's true no matter which we you identify with. We've had some wins. And it has not gotten us where we need to go. Not even close. And that's because we're swimming in toxic water. It's a toxic system, the whole thing. And a lot of people look to politicians to lead us out of this. But the truth is, they won't. Arguably, they can't. Because they're stuck in a system. Politicians have to follow the system. They can't change the system, or they won't. And so that means that we've got to change it some other way. And our best bet at that is a social movement. It's changing culture. We've got to change that water. And for that, we need civic influencers. And that is why I'm so happy to be in this particular room talking to you. You are some of the most socially conscious and influential people in this country right now. That's why you're here. And your networks are one of the most powerful repositories of cultural power that exist. But it's the same problem. For the most part, they don't see this as part of their job. They work on issues. They do great work on issues. But somehow that umbrella that's being torn down, it never makes the list. And so our question for you is, what do we have to do to get their buy-in? What do we have to do to get your networks to put their shoulder to the wheel and say, this matters to me. This is personal for me. I'm going to fight for this and fight for my country. I think if we can do that, if we can activate your networks, we can really make something happen. So I want to end just by thanking you for taking time out of your busy lives and out of this fantastic conference to be in this room and care about this issue. Really grateful.